Hey guys, it's Maymay, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for this video. It has been a long time coming, and I've been trying so hard to get to sit down and play, and I'm excited that I can. Now, this album that I'm showing you is from my family. I do not know how old this album is. I do know where it came from. Some years ago, someone made it in my family and gave it as a Dirty Santa gift at our family Christmas party. I do not know who made it. I don't know any details about that, but I know it ended up with my mother. That's how we ended up getting it. And you guys remember, I was telling you not long ago, I really wanted to bring these back. Let me say this before I say that, because since I've said I want to bring them back, I'm put that in quotes, people have told me they never went anywhere and that they're still making them. So if you're someone who makes them, fantastic. I love that you never quit making them. And if I make it today, or if I start this series of making it and I'm not doing it well, I'm sorry, I have not researched it. I'm just going to go back to what I remember and make it from like that. Okay. So that's where we are. This one in particular was made, look, this is like 3 strands of like a gold cord that was wrapped around to make a frame. This bow is glued down. You can see the hot glue, like it's everywhere. There's hot glue here. And they even just did a ruffle around the picture itself. There's actually no frame in there. The picture's just kind of sitting in there. And you can see here, you can just barely reach in to get to the picture. I actually think they might have squished it in there or put it in before they put the ribbon on. And then you can see that it wraps all the way around. It's so old, you guys. It has been stored and brought out so many times, and we'll crack into it. You might be wondering whose picture that is. I'll tell you. If you know my cousin Holly, whose channel is Simply Lake and Lace on YouTube or Instagram, then you'll know that's her mother. And does it look like Holly? It does look like Holly. And right here beside her is her sister Bridget. That's who's in there. So anyway, that's who that is. And then you can see inside here, this album was one of those spiral albums that has the photo pages that you peel the little plastic up, to put pictures in. And you'll see that they just covered some cardstock. I don't even think that's cardstock. I don't think there's anything covered. I think it's just turned under and hot glued down, which is so cool to me. There's ribbon tucked in for the bow to tie it closed. There's lace tucked in. I think that's so cool. And here you can see all of our old family photos in here. Not all of them, but I'll flip through for a second so you can see some of them. Some of the folks in here you'll recognize. Let's see, that's my mother. You recognize mom. That's my mom again. And let's see if there's somebody else you might recognize. There's Wayne. You guys prayed for Wayne, remember? And that's my grandmother. That's me. There's so many of us in there that you might recognize. Mom, there's Holly. Y'all tell her. You have to reach out and go, Maymay showed a baby picture. She won't be upset. It's really cute. Anyway, this is our album. This is a family picture that I stuck in there. Now, this is what these albums were like back in the day. These kind of plain pages, right? We don't have that today. I'm going to do our modern album inside of here, but I'm going to do this fluffiness like this. I'm going to just call this kind of a fluffy album. Are they upholstered albums? I don't remember what they were called back in the day, but I do remember making them, and they were so fun. All right, so what album am I going to use? You guys already picked this guy up. We do have some in store, but so many of you, I want to say 150 of you guys picked up these albums because I think you want to do this with me. This is the one I've decided to use. A couple reasons. One, because of its size. I really like its size. It's an 8 1/4 by 8 3/4 album. And I like this 2-inch binding here and then our spine. And then I also really love this hardware, this kind of antique bronze or brass hardware, but you could use any of your albums. Okay. I also love that this one comes with these pages and they are very unique. Let me show you what's in here. And I hope you don't mind. I'm not going to rush this project. I have been looking forward to it so long. I'm just going to play and have a good time. These pages look like this. So you get some that open sideways, some that open from the bottom. This one also opens from the bottom. This one is a pocket page on both sides. They already have tabs on them. This is another pocket page. I think there's 3 pocket pages. And then this is another one of those full open from the side. Another full open from the side, and then from the top. And then these are just blank pages, which I love. We can do anything we want with those. The only thing not in this album that I'll be adding, these are reinforcement tabs, by the way. I'm going to be adding some photo sleeve type pages because I want to be able to just drop some photos in as well. So this will obviously be in another video. We won't get to this today. That could even be a series to get all of the stuff on the inside done. I want to start working out here. Okay, we got to talk a little bit more. I know you don't want to talk, but you got to know what's happening. This is the paper you guys challenged me to use. It's called Marry Me. It is by Echo Park. It is stunning. I went into my stash at home and found some fabrics I think would work well. This is what's called a jelly roll. If you don't sew, you might learn a couple things about sewing through this video too. This jelly roll has a lot of greens in it, which I think kind of coordinate, and I think we can mix this together for the outside of the album. I also brought with me today this black and white stripe, which kind of is a gray and white stripe, but next to this paper really goes with the green. So I thought that might be a good option. And I also brought this kind of gingham check, which is actually green and white, but it kind of looks green on green, and it might work. And then the last thing I had that I wanted to bring to see if it would work today is this one here that is kind of this tree bark, kind of a birch bark situation. I gotta be honest though, as I'm looking, I really, really like the way this looks with this paper pack. So this may be what we cover our album in, and then I may reach into here to make some ruffles or something to add some trim to the album. I think that'll be pretty too. I did grab this while I was there. I wanted to show y'all something I think is really cool. If you're into paper crafting and fabric, this is Day in the Life fabric by Echo Park. It's actually also has a paper pack to match it. So if you wanted to find matching paper packs and matching fabric, reach out to your local fabric store and then maybe your craft store, like see what paper packs we have and see if you can match them. And all my fabrics that I'm showing you today, let me make sure. No. Okay, my jelly roll and some of that fabric came from So Charming here in my town, So Charming Quilt Shop. And this is actually a piece I bought from So Yeah Quilting, which is on YouTube. I bought this from one of their yardage sales. Okay, a lot of talking. Let's get to the first step. I really don't know what the first step is. I'll just take you along my process. So I found this batting and I got it and I put it in our store. So if you're looking to use the same batting I have, this is the one I'm going to use. It is warm and white. I don't really care that it's warm. What I loved about it was it is craft size. So it's a 34 by 45 inch piece. So I'll get plenty out of here, probably more than I need. What I want to decide is how much batting I want to use. And let me show you. This batting is thin enough to give myself a thin, fluffy album, or I could lay 2 layers in and get it a little thicker if I wanted to. So let's see. The cool thing is you really don't need that much of this to get this done. It's not that big of a space. So if I did want to do it super thick and use 2 pieces, I'm only going to use that much of my batting, which is not bad. I kind of want it thick, you guys. I may regret it later, or I may learn a lot from this. And, you know, if I do, I do. That's the way crafting works, right? So I'm going to use 2 pieces. What I did just then was I'm trying to line this up so that I'm not wasting any batting here. I don't want to get it crooked when I cut it. I'm just going to try to line that up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to line that up. Then I'm going to take this guy and place him down, and I think I'm just going to trace. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to give myself a good starting place. I'm going to use this brush nib on my memento pen. This is how we're just going to use everything we've already got. Don't worry about the fact that I'm writing on my album. All of that's going to get covered up. We're going to wrap our fabric around so we won't even see. You could use a Sharpie for that matter, because all of that is going to get covered up. All right, I'm going to cut this out. If you're wondering how many albums you could get out of this piece, it looks like I could get easily 3 more, but probably 4 more out of it. And the reason is you can always piece this batting because of the way we're going to cover it up. That will be easy to do. All right, so there's our batting. Let's decide what I want to do here. Like I said, I'm making this up as I go. I don't remember ever doing one of these solely by myself. I remember making them as a family, like our family did these for fun. So I don't remember ever, doing the plan all by myself. I'm trying to decide if I think I should glue this down. I really don't think I need to. I think when I put the fabric on, I can just wrap it around and it'll be great. So what I'm going to do now is get my fabric cut to go on top. I'll probably go and iron this fabric too because I want it to be kind of smooth. Let's see how much I'm going to need. I am leaving my batting under the album for this part. I will tell you, just from experience, give yourself more to wrap around than you think you need, okay? And this is not just experience in this sort of thing. But do you see this space right here? This is what we're going to use to wrap around, okay? I want to be sure I have plenty to glue down. I do not want to be fighting these pieces as I turn them over. And I love this so much because this piece sinks in, I've got plenty of room to do this wrap around here. That's more than I need. That's probably about 2 inches. I don't need 2 inches of hangover. Let's move that up a bit. I still want to have too much. I'd rather have too much to wrap around than not enough. That's good right there. So that looks good. This side looks good. And let me show you. I'm even going to be able to use this selvage edge. And the reason is that's going to get tucked under and you won't see that it stops there. And then I'm going to cut myself about 1.5 inches here. I'm not really measuring. I'm just going to do it. Now I don't need 2 layers. I just need 1. So I'm only going to cut through the top and then I'll cut this apart. And when I have this cut, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Now off camera, I took this to my ironing board and I ironed it, and I want to show you, I even starched it. This is something called Best Press. This is something I use in my quilting. I get this again from So Charming, which is my local quilt shop. By the way, they ship online if you're interested in anything I'm using. So I use this. This is starch and sizing, which I didn't really need to size it or anything. I just wanted to get it nice and kind of flat, and you can see that I did here, and I got a spot on it from my iron. I'm not going to stress about that, and the reason I'm not is because I'm going to be decorating the front, so it'll get covered up anyway. All right, so, and I could put that on the back, but I actually think I'm going to put it on the front so I can cover it up with decorations. All right, let's get this guy laid out. All right, so this is my batting, so we'll put it here like so, and then I'm going to put the album on. Just like this. There's probably some tip I'm not thinking about. I do remember something about whenever my family would make these, they would do this side and kind of bend it up to give it some room here. So I'll probably try some of that. I also plugged up my hot glue gun for this. I had planned to use my Fabri-Tac, but I remember we always use hot glue. And then that original album, it was covered in hot glue. So I'm going to hot glue it. I think it'll be fun. All right, so we'll start up here. I think I'll start right here, right in this corner. That's way too much hot glue, but we got started, right? Then I'm going to pull this down because I think what I want to do is sort of miter these corners. Don't forget, hot glue will come through your fabric, okay? So you want to be careful with that. Okay, now I think I'm going to glue this side down. All of this we're doing here is going to get covered up. There's a way to neaten this all up and clean it all up, so don't stress too much about how this looks. You do just want to get your fabric nice and snug. We can pull out any wrinkles or tension on the other side. Look how pretty that's going to be, you guys. Isn't that neat? I love how that's looking. I'm just checking my stripes and make sure they're all still going in the right direction, and they are. Now we can work on the other side. I'm going to turn this around to work on it, just like this. So now I'm going to glue this side. All right, real quick, I want to turn it, make sure it'll close, and it looks good. When I'm doing my pulling, I'm going to have to make sure I get my lines nice and straight. You see how those are kind of curving, and then I have to pull them in place, but that'll be fine. All right, so do I want to pull the top down first? Let me decide. I kind of think I do. I think I'm going to start and do the top and the side around and glue that down all the way. This is so different than paper. My glue seems to be drying really quick, so I'm going to do just a little at a time. Okay, so there's most of it covered. That is so much fun. I just love it. And now I'm going to finish off this edge here. I do need to add a little glue. That's popping up. Okay, don't laugh. It's not great. It's been a long time since I've done something like this. So I'm just going to give myself some grace. I feel like by the time I decorate it, put some pretties on it, things like that, I feel like it will look great. This is just layer 1, right? I do think I'm going to take my scissors and go around and trim this out just because there's so much bulk. So I'm just going to come through here and where I can, trim away what I don't need. Okay, so there's my album covered so far. What I need to do now is make the pieces that are going to go inside. I've got a little piece popping up. Make the pieces that are going to go inside to cover this and make this clean. I'm actually not going to apply them yet though, because what I want to do is I want to put a trim between the cover piece and out here. And I also have to come up with a way to neaten everything up. You know what I'm saying? I think what I might do now that I'm looking at it, and this is not how, but just to give you an idea, I may lay some fabric in here where I'm not going to be able to cover everything perfectly. Like if I put some underneath here to kind of clean that up, then when I put my other piece on, everything will be covered. So this can look really bad for a little bit, but it will look better as we go. It won't be this piece. That's just a scrap that I cut off, but I think that'll make sense. So let's do some measuring. Okay, so for here, My chipboard can go all the way there. There's plenty of room. My chipboard is no thicker than my ruler, so it can go all the way there, and this guy can still open. Let's just double check that. Yep, still open, no problem, so that's good. So let's measure. So from there out is about 6 3/4. That's about what I'm looking at here to get that almost to the edge. You don't want it to hang over, and you could actually come back because I did leave myself enough fabric to come back a bit, but I think I'm going to go 6 3/4. I think that'll be good. And then my height will be, if I do 8.5, I should be good. So let's cut a piece of chipboard, 6 3/4 by 8.5. So here's what I'm working with. This piece is 6 3/4 by 8.5. You can see it's just going to leave a little bit showing, and that's good. We will cover this. Now, the cool thing is I could cover this in cardstock and let the inside be cardstock and the outside be fabric. And I may do that just for bulk, but we'll see how it goes because I still have to do some decorating, and I am going to have to do some covering in this area. We'll have to get creative. We'll figure out how to do that. And now let's measure this side. On this side over here, I did 7 3/4 by 8.5. I would suggest you measure yours, though, just to be sure. You just never know, so don't go with these measures. But look, isn't that going to be pretty? And I really do think I want to cover them with cardstock instead of fabric. I think I want the outside to be fabric. I really like how slick and clean that feels on the inside, and covering those with cardstock would be pretty. So for this area in here, I'm going to use fabric to cover that. And I'm going to have to get a little creative and get a little fancy here, but I'll show you what I'm going to do. I don't want to add more chipboard here. I could, but I still want to cover underneath here. And I think using the striped fabric is the way to go. So I just cut myself a piece that will lay under one piece. And then when I get it cut correctly over here, it will cover all of this area as well. And what I'm going to do here, you could take the time to match these stripes up, and I might get lucky. They might just match up. I'm not going to stress about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself some marks, kind of create a pattern for where this needs to go. And the first thing I'll do here is holding this guy in place. I'm going to lay this down and just do a little finger press right here, just to give me a line of where to cut the side of this little piece, okay? So I've got my little finger press crease there. That lets me know where this needs to go. Then what I'm going to do is open this back up. And where it overlaps, I'm going to do a little slice. But this slice I'm going to do is going to be here, okay? Not up here. I'm going to cut kind of in this area so I know my length. Matter of fact, I'll cut a little high, like right at the screw. You'll see why, because I want this to lay down so I can trace that shape onto my fabric. You don't want to cut it away. You want to cut closer there. So I'm going to the kind of the center of that little screw. And now you see it will lay down for me to be able to trace, and I can get that shape in there just right. So let's get a pencil. And what I'm going to do is just lay this down and trace that shape. So holding that one in place, I'm going to do the same up here. There is probably a better way to do this. If there is, you guys can tell me. You're probably watching me going, Maymay, that you made that so hard. And I could have. I tend to do that. All right, so now I'm going to cut that shape out and see what we get. So now that's going to lay just like that. It is not perfect. It is not the end of the world. If it is not, I'm not going to stress about that. What I think I am going to do is do a little fray check along those edges that are kind of exposed, because I don't want that to fray over time. So if you're not familiar with fray check, it's this product here that you just go around the loose edges of fabric or ribbon, and it puts a little like glue piece and it kind of locks it into place. And I think I'll be glad I did this later. All right, let's place this back where it's going to go. And now what I want to do is create for myself a line to turn this under to be able to glue it down so it'll be nice and clean. So with my lines going pretty straight, I'm just going to grab up here like so. And now I'm going to finger press that. I could take it to the ironing board, but I'm not going to stress about that too much. Let's just finger press it. Put it back and do the same on the other end. So it'll start to come together. You can see that'll be pretty neat up there. Get this one where it goes. So now before I turn this under, I think I'm going to take the time to glue this around my piece here. And I have decided to use Fabri-Tac here. The reason is I want to have some time to move. I don't want to have to be quick with my hot glue cooling too quick. So I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac so I can really maneuver this into place. Start with placing that in. Just working it into the glue. I feel like I'm talking like I'm an expert or something. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll just tell you, I don't, but it seems to be doing okay. That's what we're going to say. It's just crafting, right? We're just playing and having a good time. Okay, so I got that laid in there nicely. Now I'm going to come back and add some more glue behind. This Fabri-Tac has a lot of alcohol content in it. You can smell it, so it will dry still pretty quickly. All right, I want to turn this under, and I may have left myself too much. I think I did. Let's trim some of that off. Now let's do a dry run really quick of tucking that. My lines don't match up perfectly. I'm not going to stress about that, you guys. It is what it is. By the time we get it so pretty in there, it'll be fine. And now I can add, I could do hot glue here on the edge, but again, for movement, I'm going to do the Fabri-Tac. All right, and at the bottom down here, I'm going to do the same thing. Let me see if I need to trim some. I do need to trim just a teeny bit. So there we go. That section is all glued down. Now let's see what our pieces will look like, what all they'll hide. So this piece will go here, and see how this is just going to clean everything up when we get it covered. And the other piece will clean this side up for us. So it'll hide all of our kind of working, but it'll look really neat and clean in there. Isn't that nice? And we can always run ribbon or something if we want to around there too. I still can't decide if I want to cover these in fabric or cardstock. I think cardstock would be really pretty. Let's talk about what we're going to do on the inside. Now, here's the thing. I probably could have, I don't know if I should have, but I probably could have run whatever trim I'm going to put around here before I glued this down. But I don't really love how this looks. I think I might prefer a piece of trim going across here because I think it might clean this up. So let me see what trim I have that I want to use. But here's where we are so far. Look, here's our album. It's looking pretty good, nice and covered, and it's going to get neater and neater. So let me see what I'm going to put around the edge. All right, I'm really excited. I'm going to use rickrack, and there's a way I'm going to do it. So right here, what you'll see is the rickrack, which will clean up that little line for me. But around here, what I think is going to be pretty is when I glue the rickrack on, and then I put this piece here, you're only going to see that little scalloped edge, and I think that's going to be so delicate and so cute. So I'm going to apply this. Now, I want these guys to kind of match up. So what I'm going to do is just do kind of an angled cut right there just to give myself a clean line. And I'm going to go ahead and fray check it so it doesn't cause me a problem in a minute. Let's get this done here. Just like so. And I'm going to let that dry for just a second. It doesn't take too long. Let that dry and then we'll start gluing it down. Now, because I want to keep bulk out of here, I'm going to put this down with Fabri-Tac. I was going to do it with hot glue, but the hot glue can get a little bulky, and I really don't want bulk here, especially if I'm going to just cover those pieces with paper and glue them down or with cardstock. So I'm going to use some Fabri-Tac, and when I glue this in place, I'm only gluing those top little bits, so I can just go ahead and run glue down. And the Fabri-Tac is drying really quick. I will tell you, it has an odor. If you're sensitive to odors, you're going to do this maybe in an open, ventilated area. You want to do that anyway, but you might even consider kind of going on the back porch or something, just because it's a little strong. The odor goes away when it's dry, but it's definitely here now. Notice I'm starting kind of in the back. That's something my grandma taught me. When you're going to do fabric or lace or anything like that, start it in the back, and by the time you get to the front, you won't even see where you joined it. So this, I know this is the side, but it's really a good spot because no one will notice it. Here you might actually see it. And we're going to match up our rickrack almost perfectly anyway. All right, let's do a test. Let's just look and see. See that little tiny scallop? I just want to make sure I'm putting it where it's going to show before I get too much glued down. I love that. I think that is adorable. So I'm going to do that all the way around. So the rickrack is drying, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But what I want to do now is cover these with cardstock. And here's what I was thinking. If I cover them with cardstock and I don't like the way they look, I can always go back and put fabric over it. But let's pick out what we want to put on the inside. I want something pretty. I'm not going to be able to cover both of them in the same one because these are single sheets. But it won't matter in the long run. I think it will be pretty either way. So let's just flip through and see. This is really pretty right here. So I might could use that on one side, and let's just flip. This green is pretty, but it might also be pretty to do this floral. So I'm going to hold that one aside. The greens in this pack are so pretty. Look at that one. That one might be pretty too. And that peach or pinky peach might be pretty on the inside. Let's use these two pieces. I think this will be pretty to cover our chipboard with. What I want to do is I want to have a 1/2 inch overhang all the way around to wrap around this guy. So that means whatever measure my chipboard is, I need to add 1 inch to both sides. Okay. So this guy is 6 3/4. So I need to do 7 3/4 by 9 1/2. That adds 1 inch all the way around. And I need to do the same thing with the other piece. So I'm going to get my papers cut and we'll get right back together. Now you guys have probably been here for this style of work. This is paper crafting work, right? I'm going to glue this into the center like this, and then I'm going to wrap my cardstock around. So I think what I'll do real quick is go ahead and apply some glue back here. I think this is funny. I'm working with my 3rd type of glue so far on this project. Kind of funny. Don't need too much here. I just want to get this guy to sit still on the page while I wrap it around. So just something like that. And I'm just going to eyeball center it on the page. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're doing about a 1/2 inch all the way around. Just like so. Then really quick, I'm going to take my scissors and just miter the corners. And I don't want to cut all the way to the cardstock. If you do, your cardstock is going to, or your chipboard is going to show. So I'm going to come out about 1/8 inch away, and I'll bring this up so you can see. See how I didn't go right to the edge? I left myself a little bit of extra. You'll love that in the end when it goes time to wrap this around. So just leave yourself just a little bit. But let's get some of that bulk out of the corners. All right, now what I tend to do is take my bone folder and I just kind of score around first. This will help me not get any cracks when I'm turning. If you want to put this on a mouse pad, or if you want to lay a dish towel across your work surface to do that scoring part, you can. I typically don't. It usually works just fine. But I did my score, and then I just kind of stand it up to start that turn. Just like that all the way around, using my work surface to help me bend it even, put even pressure on it. Then I just slowly work this around. I feel like y'all have watched me do this for years. It doesn't change. I do it the same way every time. So just slowly work that over. And then we're just going to glue this little piece down to cover our chipboard. And I'll do this on the other side as well. And then I'll show you where they go in the book. So I have my glue gun sitting beside me because I've been using it, right? And I'm going to use it again in a few minutes. But I also have my glue press sitting next to that, my one that I apply my art glitter glue with. And I keep picking up my glue gun instead of my glue press, and it's kind of funny. All right, you guys, we're getting somewhere. Now what I need to do is add a ribbon that will be my closure to tie this together. You probably saw in my album I showed you a minute ago that there was a little piece of ribbon in there so that the whole thing could tie together. And that's what I'm going to do. This is just a piece of white satin. I think I'm just going to run a little bit of hot glue here. Just a little. Stick that guy in. Use my bone folder to help me because I know that glue's going to come through. Get that in there nice. Let's see if that feels very center. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Now I'm going to go to the other side and put one in. Just doing a test and seeing that they're pretty close. They don't have to be exact, but those are pretty good. They're pretty close together. And then look how cute the rickrack is around the side. I think that is adorable. Okay, now we can put down our pretty little pieces. Going to clean everything up. Look, everything's been looking kind of rough. Everything needed a finishing edge, and this is going to do it. And I think I'm going to do 2 different adhesives. I'm going to do my art glitter glue all the way around the very, very edge just for help there. And I'm going to use hot glue here because I really want this to stay down. I'm not exactly sure the hot glue is my favorite thing for this because we are gluing this to fabric, but we're just going to do a couple of adhesives to help us out. The good thing about using 2 glues is the hot glue cools pretty quick and it holds everything in place while the art glitter glue dries. And we'll take a look at this again and see if we like it. I think it's going to be fine. It is different, though, gluing paper to fabric like that, but it sure does look pretty, doesn't it? All right, let's do the other side. I'm anxious to see it cleaned up as well. You guys, this is so fun and nostalgic to me. I'm just having the best time with this. I cannot wait to get to the rest of it. I'm going to show you the front because I have a plan for what I'm going to do on the front. But I will tell you, I'm going to have to let this be part one. This has taken me a little while, and I do want to get this out so you guys can see it. And if you are going to catch up with me, this is a good place to be because I want to start working on the front. And I want to build one of those frames like we used to make back in the day. I remember those, so I don't know how I'm going to do that exactly. That's just a little fray check there to get those ends nice and secure. And then look, when we close this up, let's do a little bow. I'm going to go ahead and leave this tied in the bow until I pick it up and work on it again. But the reason for that is it's really stiff. You know, it's really wanting to release back on itself. Do you see how it's doing right now? I want it to get used to this position, this kind of close, but you see how it's trying to pop open, which is going to be fine when I have everything in here because I'm going to fill this up with pages. But I want it to get used to being in this position. I think it'll help the glue to kind of get set into its spot. When we get back together, I'm going to do a frame here and we're going to start building the pages for the inside, which I'm really excited about too. You guys, this may be a lot of parts for this one. This could be one of those old-fashioned you know, parted videos. I think I have one video on my channel that has as many as 15 parts on it. This won't take that long. It won't. I'll make sure of it. But I love how it's looking so far in that little delicate border. Are you kidding me? I love it. Hey, thank you guys so much for challenging me and also allowing me to bring back an old vintage kind of project. I hate to say old vintage. Like I said, there's people still making them. I see them all over the place, but it does take me back to my childhood and I just love it. All right, you guys, if you don't want to miss the rest of this, you want to make sure you hit subscribe, tell YouTube to give you notifications so you'll know when my next video comes out. Look for another part of this to happen on our Thursday night premiere video. We'll hopefully get the frame done by then, get the frame in the front done so we can start on the pages in our next video. Hey, thanks so much for being here. Until next time, bye now.